be concentrating to this
We're on
time.
air. We're on air.
I'm just kidding.
Call this meeting to order. Rhonda, can we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Temple.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Person West. Dr. Redis.
Here.
Ms. McLean.
Here.
Ms. Wonka.
Here.
Mr. Steele.
Executive closed session per North Little Rock School District Policy 1.14 stating that private or closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to request matters of pupil punishment if requested by parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for a vote of the membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 1062 states that the purpose of executive session shall be announced in public before going in executive session. So will you please join me in executive session for discussing the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, and resignation of an employee. Oh, he's got it, okay.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Paluski. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Huggins. I've lived in Pulaski County most of my life, and I've lived in the Amboy community for over 25 years.
Got it.
I've been involved in education for 20 years, and I'm a dyslexia therapist and an educational advocate. 2 weeks ago, I sent you all emails asking you to do your own research about Read 180. Dr. Paluski told you in that meeting that he had seen great results from it, and I encouraged you to ask to see that data. We've spent a lot of time in education over the past few years mourning learning loss due to our children being put on virtual learning platforms. Yet every day we're putting our kids back in front of screens with programs like Lexia. Lexia is not a bad program, and it's great for reinforcing skills taught by an actual teacher. Read 180 is another virtual program that the district is proposing to use with our students who are the furthest behind. These students don't need a computer-based program. If that was going to be sufficient for them, they wouldn't be so far behind. What these students need is direct instruction and literacy. Read 180 is not a proven program. Studies have shown that not only is there little growth, there is often more regression. If you want to know how well Read 180 works in Arkansas, you can look at the Jonesboro School District. They started using it in 2015. So I pulled data from starting from 2016 forward because that's when we began using the ACT Aspire. In 2016, 67% of their 3rd through 10th graders were not reading at grade level. In 2019, 66.4% of their students were not reading at grade level. In 2021, 69.2% of their students were not reading at grade level. In 2022, 69.8% of their students were not reading at grade level. And in 2023, 69.6% of their students were not reading at grade level. Their enrollment is about 6,400 students, which is slightly smaller than North Little Rock. North Little Rock's enrollment last year was around 7,600. As of 2023, 72.6% of our students in North Little Rock are not reading on grade level. So I encourage you to look at other options before shoving more kids down the school-to-prison pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins.
We're on to action items.
Yes, ma'am. Members of the Board of Education. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the first action item is 5.1, the employment of personnel. The superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Madam President,
Wait.
I need to recuse myself.
for the community
For the
learning
Oh,
partner.
no.
employment of
Employment of
personnel.
personnel.
Oh.
Okay, Madam Chair, you may go ahead, Ms.
Okay.
Walker.
Madam President, I so move that we accept the employment of personnel.
Second.
Moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of our Board of Education, the next action item is 5.2, Community Service Learning Partner Application. The superintendent recommends the approval of the Community Service Learning Partnership applications as presented.
Madam President, I so move that we accept the community service learning partner application.
Second.
Okay. Been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Okay,
Question, does that apply to summer as well?
Yes, sir.
Anytime during the summer will apply to the next year of their
No,
education?
it can apply for the summer to get credit for the community service learning?
Yes.
Yes, sir. It can happen for the summer.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Action item 5.3, 2024-2005 clerical salary schedule change. Mr. Smith is here, but I do believe this is just simply a change in language. Mr. Smith?
That is correct. It's just a change of the usage of the word secretary in the salary schedule to administrative assistant, which is secretary is an antiquated term. So we are moving to a more proactive approach to our titles in regards to human resources.
Very good. Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the proposed draft administrative assistant salary schedule for the 24-25 year.
Second.
Moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Question.
carried. Okay.
Mrs. Smith, you had down here the way it's looking at clerical salary schedule change. But I was on there looking, but you just explained we're merely changing the clerical name to assistant administration. So was there a salary change with the changes of the names?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so that's an error then. Clerical salary schedule change, that's what's listed on here.
The only thing that was meant to communicate by that title was that there was going to be a change within that particular salary schedule in regards to the language. I did not mean to infer that there was going to be a change in regards to any money associated with the salary schedule.
Okay,
Which is stated in the yellow sheet, the purpose.
Yes, ma'am. Or yes, sir.
call for the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Good clarification, good job.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the next action item is 5.4, the 2024-2025 new materials of instruction. I am amending this recommendation at this time to exclude Read 180 and therefore not approve Read 180 at this time until we seek some further clarity from ADE. So the superintendent recommends the 2024-2025 new materials of instruction that would exclude the purchase of Read 180 at this time.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the recommendation of 3 through 12 science and excluding the reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam President, members of our Board of Education. The next action item is 5.5. Superintendent recommends the 2024-2025 Parent-Student Handbook, as Mr. Logan presented. And I do think that there are some we have the numbers listed. There is some editings that we have to do, but generally for the content, so we can push this out to our families.
Okay. Question,
Madam President,
no,
I so,
you go ahead, you can make the motion.
I so move that we accept the 24-25 Parent-Student Handbook.
Second.
Moving properly second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, question. Mr. Logan? I just noticed, I know we have now a lot of assistants to change the book, but Ms. Faulkner's name too, when you're doing your cleanup, look at all your administrators, so you can get that,
We have those
that
highlighted.
clarity. And I asked you another question last week, do you remember what it was?
In regards to technology,
No, it was not.
okay. Refresh my mind.
I wasn't here. Yeah, what was the question?
We did have a lengthy discussion on
No,
technology.
yes, it was about technology.
Right, yes, ma'am.
And what kind of conclusion did the administrators come to?
Right,
As
so,
far as the,
so at this time, and that's a conversation that Mrs. Brown and all of us will be a part of in regards to the replacement cost of Chromebooks. Everybody's chose a different pathway in order to offset the cost of replacement of Chromebooks. They're not free, as we know. A good majority of those are paid for by Title I budgets. So in regards to that being in the handbook, while I oversee the handbook, that is an option that we have to explore in regards to either offering insurance, another way, but we can't force parents to purchase insurance. But there has to be a cost in which we would have to pass to a family in order to be able to maintain these. And it's a statewide problem in regards to upkeeping Chromebooks, because if you'll recall, I'm sure you've been on the board long enough, with the way we've bought handbooks historically, it's come through a lot of federal money that came at one time, and Chromebooks have a lifespan, anywhere from 5, Randy, I'm talking outside of my lane, so jump out here if you want to, anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 years. They don't have a long lifespan, so that's why everybody, if you look at various school districts, has a different perspective on how to handle that, but kids are hard on Chromebooks.
well, I would like to say too, so we understand the North Rock have all of the schools are poverty,
Yes, ma'am.
and my consideration is I do not want to see a child not educated because the parent cannot afford to be reimbursed for a Chromebook. These are issues we had last year, and I do not care to see this happening. The haves and the have-nots I want everybody to have the same. Thank you.
Another question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Angela.
I was wondering, like, what would be is it the reasoning behind the why we're doing Chromebooks exclusively? Is it because of cost? Like, do they not make textbooks anymore? Like, I mean, because textbooks work when I was in school. Like, why we don't use textbooks?
So I think you know, we had this last discussion with Dr. Harbin. She cited the research at Harvard as it comes to a blend, and more specifically on the comprehension side about textbook. I mean, we've transferred. I mean, it's just the world of work today in which children interact on that. That's not the sole way, the only way that we deliver instruction. And as I recommended the last time, once we have a new director of technology, this is their first order of business to come back to this board with a comprehensive overview. How many devices do we have? What does this look like? What is the cost? So we can share with you, because once we're here, we're always here going forward. Now, whether or not we don't allow them to take them home, we're making some provisions to keep them in the classroom, but also at the same time, Ms. Williams, ensuring that every student has a device, they're not without one.
Right. Yeah, and we should not have. I mean, and feel free to let us know, but we should not be, or have not, to my knowledge, through our office, been denying anyone access.
Correct.
And the use of the Chromebook, it serves a variety of purposes. We don't, use as much paper as we once used. Digital platforms allowing kids to have access, but we've had to look at it grade level by grade level, case by case. Middle school kids are harder on everything, so we try not to let middle school kids take them home. Whereas at the secondary level, at the upper secondary level, that's a little more appropriate for them to be able to do that. But the fact of the matter is you put a piece of technology in a kid's hand, there's going to be problems with it, and they're just simply not free, and we can't replace them. But we also can't force parents to purchase insurance, so it's just a unique situation that it puts the district in. Again, way outside of my lane, but
Right. And then my second part of that question would be this: are we still maybe utilizing maybe a hybrid type of platform, meaning that we use some books in some situation, textbooks, as far as certain subjects or what have you? Because I guess just thinking along the lines of going to college or maybe doing some other type of coursework, you lose that aspect of like looking up stuff or knowing what that looks like or feels like.
And so, yeah, as we discussed, which is they're sitting right over there, you can see the materials of instruction in which we were you just approved to purchase with the exception of Read 180. So we want to make sure that's available to all the public. But yes, if we go back all the way to the curriculum audit, this is what we've been working towards. There are courses that don't have, Dr. Harbin mentioned it, the science textbook was what, 2004, 2006? Yes. We have other courses that don't have a core material of instruction. So we got to make sure we get our tested areas first and then continue to kind of build out. But yes, we want to make sure that every child has the right instructional materials needed to be successful in the course.
Okay, thank you.
A question, not on Chromebooks, if somebody else has something on Chromebooks. Okay. Since we're kind of looking back a little bit, did we have any issues at all on the dress code? Remember, that was a controversial issue. And I appreciate your leadership on that. I know you were brand new here when that came up,
Right.
but how did that go?
We you all have been in schools, and we've been in and out of schools. Not a lot of conversations surrounding dress code. In total transparency, I visited frequent campuses, not enforced the way that we would like to see it, but all we can ask for is progress, and that's what we made a good deal of progress. As I stated specifically at the high school, we mentioned Ms. Faulkner's name again. A lot of conversation and checks whenever they're coming in through the open gate. It's a lot easier to navigate that at the high school with the way that they come in. They did a really good job of that this year, but we definitely still have some work to do in regards to dress code, and we are not by ourselves. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
The question, Madam Chair. Mr. Logan,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know, how involved, last year, first semester was pretty bad. And the second semester, the high school started cleaning up, wearing the pajamas and wearing the hairnets. How involved was the security, the lady on security or the gentleman when they come in? Was there something, was there any reprimand or say you can't come in, or how they gonna deal with that?
We wouldn't deny entry for a student, and that's not a grounds for doing so. But that would be handled by an administrator, not a security personnel. So it would be one of our, and that's why they have those administrators stationed at those open gate in order to be able to try to enforce that or curtail that as best
And our
possible.
deans.
And our deans, correct.
Okay.
Okay. So we had the motion. Y'all ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the next action item, 5.6, this is a significant big deal in the North Little Rock School District, which is a new contract for network copiers. How many times have we visited schools and heard about copiers? So this has been a long time coming, and I appreciate, Mr. Brown, your leadership for going through the RFP process and selecting the vendor. And he's going to give an overview. Please hold your oohs and ahs about the level of.
Look, and how many
And you
times
didn't
have I
have
sent
to-
email?
You didn't have to visit schools to get to hear about the copier
Yeah,
situation.
that was on
either.
social media.
So I just wanted to run through. You've seen this information, some of it's newer.
It's not there.
Is that on the side?
Is there a power button?
It might be on the side, Mr. Brown.
Huh?
On the side.
Oh, yep. Underneath. Works better. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to run through this information. You've seen some of this before, and I've added some new timelines, but essentially January through March, just walk you through this process. We worked on developing the RFP. We released it on April 1 to 46 vendors. We collected questions from vendors and released those question and answers to all 46. We had a May 1 deadline for proposal submissions. Early May, we had a review of the Phase 1 vendor proposals, and we ranked those according to price and the RFP criteria. Then we notified top Phase 1 vendors that they would progress to Phase 2. So we had the Phase 2. Those were in-person interviews that we had, and we had that with an 11-member committee. And those interviews lasted about an hour and a half, with 20 minutes with company product information being presented to us, and then a 70-minute question and answer session with the committee. And then we had evaluation of the Phase 2 vendor proposals. Then we progressed to a Phase 3 where we had an in-person equipment demonstration. Then we had a final vendor question and answer, and also started lease and maintenance contract negotiations at that time. And on May 30th, we selected a vendor and sent an intent to award letter, with which culminates here. We're asking for your approval tonight. We've also conducted a 2-day walkthrough, inventorying our current devices and making sure that the replacements are comparable to those systems. And we're here tonight getting your approval for that. We anticipate removal of the old equipment and installation of the new equipment starting sometime in July and being completed that first week in August. So with that, I'm happy to present that our vendor that we've selected is Capital Technology Group. They're located in Little Rock. I've included a link to their website. We're anticipating about 22% savings. We're getting new equipment. And I'd like to say that the equipment that is spec'd is new equipment. It is state-of-the-art. It has the copiers will have actually a badge reader where employees can badge in. So we're also looking at print management software, and then also the maintenance agreement fees. All of those things considered, we're still looking at a 22% savings. One of the criteria, one of the items that resonated with our committee was a tiered system in which Capital Technology Group bills a client for color usage. And, you know, the way it has worked in the past, regardless if your page had one little color item that was on the page, you're charged the same rate as if it was a full page color copy. Capital Technology Group represents one of the product lines is Copier. That's the brand of Copier, and it's exclusive to them. And they have a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 system of billing. So the device would recognize whether the page that's being printed in color, does it have less than 10% saturation? Is it between 11 and 25%, or is it 26% or over? And you'll notice there in the presentation that there are different color rates for those copies. And a lot of the things that are printed in schools are not going to be in that tier 3 scenario where it would be 7 cents per page copy. Most of the things that get printed, whether it's an email with just a footer or a header that has a color band across it, those are going to fall in the tier 1 or tier 2 situation. So we're expecting savings along that line as well. And I want to, I just want to introduce, we have some representatives from Capital Technology here tonight, and that is Byron Rogers, he's Vice President, and Mr. Ben Higgs, he's an account executive. We've been working with both of them, and they're here to answer any questions if you have them. If you don't, I have a suggested board motion that I've worked out with Mr. Billingsley over at Beckett and Billingsley and Keys. So at this point, if you have any questions, I'll entertain those. Or
And that is the suggested motion, correct?
Yes, the suggested motion is on the screen, and it's also on the yellow sheet in the packet as well.
I have a question. So they're going to turn in our old equipment for us.
That's correct. They have offered to. We're gonna provide some labor to help stage that, but they're going to load the equipment and they're going to return it to the manufacturer that's also in Little Rock, our prior vendor. They're going to do that free of charge for us.
1, thank you for being local. 2, thank you for working with us. And 3, Lord help us, please not make social media with this stuff.
I think the social media post will be celebrations. That's what I'm anticipating.
So, Ms. McLean.
Okay. I have a question as far as the maintenance component. How does that work as far as the maintenance in the future, as far as, I guess, service contracts, if you will, and then also what if, for some reason, something just won't print? We've tried to turn off, we tried to make sure that the drawers are open, we've tried to find the paper that was clogged, and it just won't print. So what happens, like,
User error.
right, how are we billed as far as maintenance, service calls, or is this on some type of contract to where it's like serviced on a regular?
It's everything is included in our contract. So all maintenance on that for a period of 5 years is included. All toner for all devices is included. Staples for the devices are included. Everything is inclusive. So our contract is turnkey. So they provide service. They have technicians that are on site. They have, everything along that line has been covered in our RFP, and their response and their they have indicated that they can meet the service needs of the district.
What's
Um,
the turnaround time? Say, like, if how does that affect? Like, are we putting in service calls? Is it by phone?
I'll
Is
let-
it by a certain person that's putting in service calls? Not everybody in the school at one location needs to call, and
Well, actually, they have a monitoring system.
Okay.
that
Oh, okay.
monitors if a machine gets jammed
Mhm.
or if a machine goes down, they will actually know it faster than we could actually place a call. So
Okay.
I'll let them speak to that. So-
We keep using the term, welcome to the 21st century. The machines are connected. We do have a monitoring system that does let us see when there is some sort of an error or a code on that machine. We still rely on the personnel, though, if they call and say, hey, there's a line on a page, it's making a strange noise, there's flames coming out of the back. we call 911. But no, we take care of that to the nth degree on it. We do have parts that the technicians carry with them, so when they arrive on site, 85% of the time, they can fix it right then and there. We also have, all of our guys have over 15 years of experience in this industry and with this brand. We have one brand and one brand only, so our guys don't have to know several different brands, or we have one that knows brand A, one that knows brand B, and you have to cross-reference. None of that. Trying to think about another question that had come up.
Uniformity.
yeah, and
uniformity.
as far as the like service component of it, is it like on a schedule? Like, we know like the beginning of the year, someone's gonna come out and service copiers, and we're gonna make sure all the belts are, we have the proper stuff in there, they're lubricated, and everything's gonna work right for the start of school.
Right. We try to
What'd you say?
These are beltless.
Oh, they're beltless.
the beltless
There's
models.
AI technology. I mean, we're really.
Oh, we getting
21st
it up.
century, yeah.
Now,
Getting some good stuff.
The machines have yields on the components. And for example, preventive maintenance kit on our machines, on most all the ones that we have proposed, have 600,000 pages before you ever have to do anything like that. So they have a long cycle. But if something does fail prematurely, of course, we're going to take care of that. But yeah, everything is covered on it. Everything but paper, basically.
And they will monitor the volume, the copy volume on those. So as preventive maintenance kits are needed, they will know it. They schedule that. We don't have to call them to say, come maintenance. They monitor that and will schedule it automatically.
That way we're not having to tear a machine apart for about an hour, hour and a half in the middle of a school day. We'll try to find a time that it works. Also, during the summer months, we do some of that belt tightening, kind of check on that. But a lot of the machines are not utilized during the summer months. So we always get those calls, the 1st of August, teachers get back, and there's a paper jam. Well, actually, it's a paper misfeed. Jam is something you put on toast. But we have those misfeeds. We have those issues that pop up, and we're there. Our response time is within 4 hours, and that's in the area that we cover, which is about a third of the state. Here in Pulaski County, it's under 2 hours. Someone's going to be on site fixing that machine. You're not going to be waiting days for a technician to show up and say, oh, I have to order a part. Those days are over.
And
I
I'd
like
like to also point out, we have selected PaperCut as our print management software. One of the options that you have in there, if you print, so we're going to have printers, we're going to have copiers. The copiers have a badge system on them. If you print to the second floor copier and you go down and that copier is offline, there's a paper jam, and it can't perform your copy job, you could walk down to the third floor, you could walk up to the third floor device, badge in there, and it will retrieve your print job and print at the third floor copier.
So a lot of people call it follow me print or print and hold. So a teacher can access their print jobs at whenever they want, wherever they want. It's not a print and then, oh, I forgot it's there. You've all walked in a workroom and seen stacks of paper that have just been left that somebody's printed and not retrieved. So they can just print, file print and retrieve that whenever they want to, wherever they want to, when they badge in, authenticate.
So really, that would also eliminate a teacher helping another teacher by accidentally throwing away something
Right.
that's important.
Yeah.
So are the teachers going to need training on how to use these advanced machines that we're not used to?
They will, but let me tell you, if Jacksonville can do it, North Little Rock.
For sure, for
Yes.
sure.
No,
So,
seriously, there's a training schedule we'll work out
Yep.
that's good for everybody, that makes sense. Key operators at each location. And we've met a lot of them on the touring the schools already.
And the operation panel is also basically the same between the machines. So once they know one machine, they know them all.
That's helpful.
that's good.
We have that component in our RFP as well, providing training for teachers. They're going to train key operators at each school, like the go-to person, the person that knows how to clear those paper jams or get something back, get the device started again. But they'll also provide training for when the teachers return. So we're going to have some large group trainings where teachers can.
It's in our best interest to make sure everybody's comfortable and trained, so there aren't user errors.
I would think that they would want to show up for that training.
Yeah.
They're going to be excited
Yes.
to see these machines.
It sounds
They'll
like
come running. Sure. They'll come running. Okay.
Ms. Williams, did you have anything?
No, I won't say that. First and foremost, I want to thank you gentlemen for being the last choice with good prices and good service. And you have certainly will be contributing a glorious asset to the North Rock School District.
Yes, ma'am.
For too long, we have tried, and I certainly hope that your company will keep their word, that you will support us in that we are purchasing these things from you. And Mr. Brown will give us a report every month.
Okay.
If there are machines that are failing or anything. And we are here for the education of our teachers, and too long they have been without.
Yes, ma'am.
And so again, every month, he will be making a report to us, because you say you can do it, and I have all the trust in the world. But sometimes because we don't know, we don't understand, you can come back to us and let us know what the problem is if things do go wrong, okay?
Sure.
And again,
It's a working partnership, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
We work with 63 different school districts in the state. And you've seen us at the School Board Association meetings. I'm usually cooking the little chocolate chip cookies. Yeah,
Oh,
that's me. Yeah, I knew you knew me. And I'm going to limit you to 2 this year.
I want to watch that.
Shots fired. We already know.
Okay, let's get us back on
We'll get back on track. Yes, ma'am. We will. And honestly, in the 33 years that I've been doing this type of business, I've got to be honest, this is one of the worst situations what we've come into.
Ooh.
And I understand that the staff, there's going to be a learning curve. They're used to a bad situation. A lot of the questions that we've been fielding and a lot of the issues have been pain points, with machines being down, not getting communication, not being able to get work done. And it's the most frustrating thing. I have 2 daughters that are teachers, one elementary, one secondary. I know what they bring to the table at night when they're frustrated when the machines are down. So yeah, we are going to do our level-headed best to make sure that that corner is turned, never to return.
Good deal. Love that.
Copiers have really
Awesome.
come a long
They
ways
have,
where
yeah.
they can transmit back to the company to see what's going on. Because, yeah, I remember, what's that little thing that you had to,
The old
Mimeograph
the
machine.
Spirit Master, yeah.
we used to do those at church when I was a little kid.
I did. That was my job. My mother's a Sunday school teacher. I did
Yeah,
that.
we.
And the
so
room was
it's come
very
a long
small,
way.
so when I walked out, the colors were brighter.
Yeah.
Um,
So what is
Okay.
what is this the motion right here?
Yes.
You want to read it?
I guess I can. Okay, no, that's not, is that it? No, that's not it, that's not it, that's something else. Okay.
You want
I
me
can't
to?
see that far.
Or can you see?
Okay, I move to approve the Capital Technology Group as the district's network copier, printer, print management vendor, beginning with the installation of new equipment and print management software for the duration of 60 months pursuant to the monthly lease and maintenance rates included in their RFP response and pending legal review for the final negotiated contracts.
Second.
Okay, moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Look
gentlemen.
forward to
Thank
working with
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the last action item is 5.7, legal transfers. The superintendent recommends the approval of legal transfers as presented.
Madam President, I so move that we accept the legal transfers.
Second.
Moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, I so move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We're in the workshop.
Okay. We'll sign those. As we move into our first information item is 1.1, our Millage campaign ethics training. And I'd like to welcome a colleague, Mr. Brown, back. And also Mr. Cody Keys is here as part of our Chief Legal Counsel. And our Chief Financial Advisor, Mr. Scott Beardsley. And as we've been talking about the millage, I did meet with Mr. Beckett and Mr. Beardsley about the ethics that's involved around a millage. And we just felt it was important that we gave the board and the public an overview. So we've all had training on what the do's and don'ts are. So Mr. Keys, welcome. Mr. Beardsley, welcome. I'll turn it over to you, sir. It's good to see you.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see everybody.
It's good to be seen.
Beats the alternative.
What's the alternative?
6 feet under.
Amen. Hi, Ms. Williams. I did, and Scott, you jump in at any point if I misspeak. I mainly wanted to just give you an overview of the ethics laws. I did a handout, and I've got a paper version as well, but does everybody have the handout?
We do have it virtually.
Here, I can give you this as well. I think the biggest takeaway would be, as a board member, just to remember, and this is not something you necessarily have control over, but you can't use any public funds as part of a ballot referendum. And that's how the ethics laws, election ethic laws, would classify this as a ballot referendum. So, assuming that the board passes a resolution to place a millage increase on the ballot, you as a board member could publicly speak to that. You could publicly support it. You could publicly oppose it. You could attend events publicly, either way. But you couldn't use any public funds, and the district could not use public funds. And I think that's probably pretty common sense. But the district could not allocate any funds to support or oppose a millage. And obviously, I think it would be supporting it would generally be the disposition. But you could use public funds to educate. So, and just going down this list so I don't misspeak, you could pass a resolution in support of the millage. You could speak publicly about the millage. You could even speak from your position as a board member at a board event. You can use public funds to create informational material, but it would have to be educational only. Hey, this is what we're going to use the 3 mills for. This is how much 3 mills would generate based on the assessed value of property in the school district. This is the needs that we currently have regarding facilities. You could do that. You could send that home with students. You just need to make sure that the information is educational and neutral, not necessarily advocating for one position by saying vote for the millage. Citizens could set up a committee for fundraising and events, and the Arkansas Ethics Commission has a form, and it's the Legislative Question Committee Statement of Organization. And there's a lot of laws governing once you set up the committee, reports are due to show how much money has been collected. I believe once they collect or once they spend $500, you have to start the committee. Board members could be members of that committee. But typically, those are done by community members who support or potentially oppose the millage. And I don't know of any reason you could not be on those committees, because, and I put the statutes at the very top. Public official is what you're defined as under the law, and you have a little bit more flexibility as a public official. There's more limitations on employees. So let's say that there was a pep rally at the Chamber Commerce somewhere at a park or something to support the millage. You would be free to go because you're not on the clock, whereas teachers would need to take time off, not clock out, but they need to ask for, PTO to go to that. You'd be free to attend that. The other issue, and this is probably something more for the administration to have to deal with, if informational meetings are held by the district, it would need to be that organization renting the facility or reserving the facility pursuant to your facility use policies. And it would be the same. You'd have to allow a pro-millage group to rent a facility to have an event, just as you would a group that opposes it. There is a what I'll call a real life example and I was involved in, and it's on here under school facilities for millage meetings. The superintendent placed a pro-millage literature on a table at a parent-teacher conference, and a complaint was filed against that superintendent, and this was nowhere in the area. This was a rural school in northeast Arkansas. And the Ethics Commission did send a letter of caution to the school superintendent, because in that setting, it was like he only allowed the pro-millage literature to be placed at that table. If it's a table that's open to the public, I kind of see when we came in here today, that table seems to be where you would place general literature. You could do that, but you just have to be cautious, because I know people will be watching and scrutinizing your actions. So,
Like a hawk.
Right. So I'm being real careful with what I say here tonight, because I know that we have people that are always checking us, right? That's kind of a good overview. There's some, and I'll tell Dr. Paluski this, there's some more restrictions with the superintendent. If he's been invited to go to the Rotary or the Lions Club at a lunch event, he can speak in support of the millage. He would just need to be a little bit more cautious by saying, hey, I'm here on my lunch break, and obviously as a superintendent, I don't take that hat off, but I'm also a private citizen, a patron of the district. And you might say the same thing, just to be cautious. Hey, while I am an elected school board member, I'm also a private citizen, a parent, a daughter, a son of the district, and I support this individually as well as as my role as board member. Any questions on that? Scott, did I do okay?
You did great.
I keep them out of trouble.
So far, we're good.
You help them raise some money, and I'll try to keep them out of the Ethics Commission.
Cody, you told us 2 words we should never use. We really need this millage, this number on front page, or this millage would be so great for the kids. Because those are words you say you should never use.
Where am I looking at? Help me, Miss Williams.
It's in the first bullet under school facilities.
It's under school.
Second to the last sentence.
Your second
Districts need to be
Oh,
transparent about how funds. Be cautious to use phrases like, we really need this millage or this millage would.
Okay, that's if you're hosting a district informational meeting. So if it's a private gathering, you're hosting some friends in your home or at your church, or the Zetas have a meeting, you can talk about it all you want and tell them how great it would be. But if Dr. Paluski and his crew wanted to have a district town hall and have, cookies and punch, they would need to be more cautious about neutral. And so that's why I would say you try to be cautious about, we really need this, and more like, hey, this is what it would go for. Does that make sense? But that's for events that are the district's hosting.
And I usually define that kind of as emotional language. So we're talking about the new middle school, and we know that we have a flooding problem there. We can't use a picture of a kid with water up to their knees and say that's informational. But we could say that part of the new middle school will address the drainage issue there. That's factual. And so we just want to make sure when we're using district facilities that we're factual, not emotional, when we're sharing information.
classroom was flooded, which is a factual event.
Then that's what I
That's
was
what
going to
I-
ask. If
me-
that's a
me too.
factual,
Which actually did happen.
Me too,
Students
yeah.
weren't standing in the water, but you would steer us away of not sharing that fact.
Well, that's a fact. But if you had a picture of little Johnny standing in
Like
the water,
this.
sad face, which I've seen a school do. So, that's the kind of emotional plea we want to
got
get
you.
away from. But showing the actual damage to the school from weather, those remain
So
factual.
actual photos of what the gym looked like, you can show that, or what a classroom looked like.
Correct.
Or what the auditorium roof looks like.
Correct. Okay.
So we had the building audit and they took those photographs.
Hello.
That's factual.
Those are factual,
Those are
yeah.
factual.
So we can use
Gotcha.
those photos that came out of the audit?
Yeah, I would think, because those are
Yes.
public
Yep.
photos.
Can I get you on record just saying yes?
He's the attorney. I'm going to let him
Well,
answer.
you've got to show people the need, right? I mean,
Right.
you're not, so I understand Scott's
I
point.
get that.
You
I
know,
do.
but a factual photo of showing the building in really disrepair, that's factual,
Okay.
We just can't stage
right?
a
Yeah.
setup.
you can't go
With
and
the
say, look,
public
Gregory,
funds."
you stand in that water, okay? And you hold all your books in your hand and look sad.
Gotcha.
I would think that the building audit that we had performed, it would probably be one of our, that would probably be
Sell it.
artifact number one in the factual column, because that was a
For sure.
third party making an evaluation of the building and its condition, and that's, that wouldn't be in the emotional category, that would be a factual. It was performed by a legitimate certified group, and that's their job to do. So I would think that building assessment would be our artifact number one for making the need for replacement of that building.
So for clarity, the money, the district, we can spend the money, all of those cute things we had in 2012, pictures of everything and how we hope the school would look, that kind of thing. The district does pay for that.
We can pay for things that's factual, that they were just talking about. A pamphlet that says, we're asking, the 3 mills, here's what it would go for. It would build a new middle school. We could put a rendering of that new middle school. It would, the demolition of the old properties or renovation of Old Main, we could have a picture of Old Main. Those type of things the district can produce and send home.
Right.
It's the things that we would do that we would say vote yes or support the millage or promoting, you have to remain neutral in that. So the district can spend money on the factual brochures, and then our citizens group that's a vote yes committee, they could produce the things that would be
On the emotional
on
side.
the
of
emotional
it. Got
side,
it.
or
Okay.
vote yes, or promoting, support for the millage, that would need to be done by that third-party community group.
And then
Okay.
that group needs to register with the Ethics Commission and follow those applicable laws.
Mr. Beardsley, when did we get started?
We've had several discussions, I think, with the administrative team, and, I think they want to do some training with some of the administrative level employees and make sure that it's not just that the school board understands where some of the bright lines are, but that our principals, assistant principals, will be interacting with parents and taxpayers. They also understand where those lines are, but we really probably won't get fully going until the students are back in the building. We'll be laying the groundwork over the summer and then be ready to communicate as we move, into the school year towards the November election.
I have a question. So the materials that we can pay for and have printed that are factual things, can we'll call it the Vote Yes Committee, I don't know what we're going to call it, or the Millage Committee, could they take those things and hand those out? Because it's not saying, yes, vote for this or please vote for it, but it's just the factual things. Can they use things that the district
Sure.
prints?
usually their messaging is going to be a little bit different because they are not restricted the way that you are. So, they're certainly going to say vote yes. They're going to, they're going to have a different branding, so to speak, whereas this is kind of our standard brochure we do for all school districts. It's strictly factual. When's the election? How much are you asking for? What are you going to do with the money? What is it going to cost the taxpayer? And I have a list of home values where they can say, this is what I'm paying for school tax now. This is what the increase is going to cost me. What are other school districts that have the same number of students? What is their tax rate? And what are the other school districts in Pulaski County? What are their tax rates? Just things that are information so that the voter can make an informed decision. And when I attend town meetings and other things, even when someone disagrees with the tax increase, I still encourage them to vote. I mean, that's the part of the process is the school board has looked at all that's going on with the district. You're only allowed to ask one question per calendar year. You've assessed this is what you think is in the best interest of the students in the school district. But, in the end, we all work for the taxpayers. And if they say no, then afterwards we'll ask why. Do we misunderstand the need and work through it? So our job, or kind of how I view it, is we want the taxpayers to get out and vote and give us that feedback and support what we think is the best idea. So we're going to give them as much information, as many different ways as we can, so that they can digest it and make an informed decision.
Do you know how much the committee that was formed, 13 years ago or 15, whatever it was, how much they spent?
I don't, because I stay on the informational side in my relationship with you. But that's filed with the Ethics Commission. We could probably go look it up, or somebody else could, because they have to file that. You have the Vote Yes Committee will have to file who donates to them, how they spent the money. They're going to be sort of held accountable and be transparent in the process. That's one of the requirements of what's called the Bond Campaign Committee.
Question. What's your advice for, because you're talking about third-party committees as the Vote Yes Committee. Some of us may be a part of a third-party Vote Yes Committee. When we recuse ourselves from a vote, how would you recuse yourself from that committee part of the, let's just say, I'm AK. So let's just say my group decide that they want to come and they want to support the school and they're going to be the Vote Yes. Well, so am I. But I can't because I'm a board member. How do I, show that I'm not there pushing to vote yes? If that makes sense?
Let me take a whack at that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that committee is a purely private committee. So there's no governance, school board governance over those private committees. So what you do at those committee meetings are purely private, and there's no governance under the public meeting laws or anything like that. So I don't even know if they have to be governed by Robert's rules or anything like that. How they govern is just as long as they're following the paperwork requirements and then the reporting requirements, they're, quote, legal. And you each could be a member of either of those. I think the only concern would be if multiple board members are at that meeting, the whole quorum, and making sure you're not talking to each other and being just cautious about your role as board members.
So for optics, it would be better for you not to be out in the forefront with the group saying vote yes.
I don't know, Dr. S., if I'd even go that far, because I know that board members across the state and these that I've been involved in are actively involved in the campaigns because they can be.
Because of their private citizens.
But because they're private citizens. Well, actually, the law would even allow you as a board member, because you don't shed your First Amendment rights to be a part of this as a public official, as long as you're not crossing the line of spending public funds or using public resources. But I mean, if you're going to these meetings on your time, which you don't have paid time, as you'll know, if you're going on your time and your private vehicle using your gas, and that, I don't see any legal prohibition with that. And in fact, it goes as far as to say, you can even speak about it publicly at these meetings, and so I don't see any problem with it, and I'd certainly hate for you to have to recuse yourself at a vote of the board, because that would potentially limit a quorum. So I'm not seeing from what you said there being any prohibition for you being able to participate in that.
So can we play a hypothetical here? So Dr. Redis is a member of a sorority. She's a member of a POA. She's out in the community in different roles. If people ask her questions about the millage, she is free to say, yes, we're asking for this, and I hope you'll vote yes. She can have a sign in her front yard, whether she pays for it or someone gives her the sign to say, vote yes for the millage increase.
Gotcha.
Would you caution her, like the other board members, that they have multiple email addresses, and each of them have been assigned a school email address? Would that be something to be aware of, their school email address versus their personal email?
Yeah, that's a great question. Certainly would advise you not to use your school email in any way regarding the millage, because that's a school resource and that's paid for by the school district. So certainly do that from your private email.
Okay, so I'm gonna follow up with that, because that email brings a really good value point there. So say, I'm gonna use as an example, Miss Sarah. Miss Sarah emails me at Wancom NLRSD, because that's how she's gotten a hold of me. It's on the website. So my response should be through my personal email to her, just for clarification.
You could respond from your school email if you're just giving, neutral information, like maybe providing the pamphlet that's going to be provided.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're going to go where you can as a private citizen and advocate, it would need to come from your private email.
Very good. That was a really good value point right there. Just for clarification, you kind of hit this again. I spend a lot of my own money within this district for various reasons. So if I wanted to go purchase my own sign and put it in my own yard and put it in every property that I own throughout the entire school district or zone, throughout the county, whatever, I can do that because I'm spending my own money, correct? And because I'm a private citizen, my freedom of speech does not quit.
Right.
And I can do so because I'm using my private income, and I'm not making income here at the school district whatsoever, and I'm on my private time, because I am not collecting a paycheck.
Right.
So just want to clarify, and I love keeping receipts.
The only caveat being, if you spend over $500 of your private money, you may trigger the whole. You have to file that.
Yep. Yep.
Correct, Scott. It's
So even with
$500
that,
towards a ballot initiative.
What happens if a local business wants to donate signs to us as a school district or a board member? Because I have multiple friends in the printing business. What happens there? What's your?
It's still an in-kind donation that.
Yeah,
have to be
this is where it's
accounted
going to
for.
get out of my wheelhouse. The difference between, spending your own personal money and soliciting funds. And part of the reason that we have these ethics laws is that the public knows who's behind something. And this is where I don't know. You're putting it in your yard and on your businesses. Do people clearly know?
I
that's
would
the
put a sign
Wancom's?
paid by Natalie Wancom.
As opposed
that's
to
who I am.
it's a generic vote yes.
Are
and
you?
People driving by don't know who that is. So that's a little bit beyond, I guess, how I can answer.
Yeah.
But we could always ask the Ethics Commission for a finding, or maybe Mr. Keys could give us more
Yeah, we
direction
would-
after he researches
We'd
it.
call Graham Sloan at the Ethics Commission or Drew Blankenship, because if you put paid for by Natalie Wancom and everything, it seems fine. It's certainly not a problem because you're not acting as a board member. But I don't know if you privately spend more than $500, does that trigger having to file the paperwork to be a referendum committee? And I have to think that there's individuals who have hosted parties or something at their house and have paid more than $500 or given more than $500 in gifts, and they didn't go set up a committee. That's outside of the school board business, so I'd have to refer that to Graham Sloan.
I know, because you're triggering so many thoughts in my head right now. Foundations here in North Little Rock that do things, and I'm like, ooh, where's that paperwork? So, yeah, moving on.
It would
Yeah.
seem like the easiest, and again, this is for the private citizen
Yeah.
that's in the pro or anti-millage group, funnel it all there. So, Jane sets up the pro vote for the millage, and then all the donations go to them, and they have a treasurer, and they're keeping it all. And so when you get the question as a board member, I really want to support this, you can direct them there.
Yeah. Yep.
So we'll be the highest millage in the state, 52.3?
No, I believe
think
Earl
second.
is like 54.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
I was
hold
just
that
looking at
distinction.
your report. That's what you were saying, once we get it on here.
What are they
and,
asking for, three?
You compared it to Russellville, Benton, Jonesboro, Bryant, Conway, and Fayetteville. That was the one I was looking at. And, the proposed. And also given the status of our enrollment, that's a good thing. And then too, comparing this with the Russellville and Fayetteville and Conway and Bryant with the number of assets and compared to us, the school enrollment makes a difference too.
So those are the 3 school districts that are closest to you in enrollment that are smaller, and the
Okay.
3 school districts that are closest to you larger. And, you know, we can look at it. Some schools have a natural comparison, typically through sports. You know, we don't really care about somebody I have listed on here. We want to list all of the 7A schools. And so we can do that. We can do, you know, who will your taxpayers relate to as a peer group? You know, the schools in Northwest Arkansas that you play in sports have higher millages than some of your neighbors here locally that are the same size. So we can do any of that as long as it's a fair representation and we're not misleading. You know, we include everybody in 7A, not just the ones that have high millage, or we include everybody that has the same number of students as you do. We want to be clear with the public, the sample size that we're using.
Mr. Beardsley, when they look at it, North Little Rock, seemingly, we would be more than happy because every school district, their middle schools, you know, like you go out to Marmel at Crossing, just right across from us. New Marmel Middle School. Everybody have these new middle schools beside us. And I think that's what enhance and help us. And them knowing the condition of the building that our students are in, certainly, I don't know, this is not a pity part of, but it's something we need, but we can't come with that mentality. We just need to do it for the children's sake. Something uplifting and positive. And when Mr. Brown starts showing the films, which he can, that is a free, to show him what we've been shown as a board and why we really need this middle school campus. And we, as a board sitting here, we want our students to have better facilities to be in. And,
Safer facilities.
And just everything. We don't want what the other people have. We want what we can have. Just everybody being cohesive. And when those other people, and I've heard the superintendent say so many times, newness also helps motivate your enrollment. People look at the facilities and have a desiring feeling of what we need to do. But I don't know what the cry is we need to have, but whatever you, Mr. Brown, can have when we start meeting to let the people know it's not like we're having a pity party of crying. These are factual, as Mr. Beardsley has forestated. And I'm excited about the process of what we can do as a board to help and to ask parents. And we hopefully, Mr. Brown, that the board can get people, we were asked to submit a name for a committee to start in our zones that would support us. And would that be a part, we would have nothing to do with that as a board. That's a separate entity as a support group.
I think that that's one option, you know, having known you as long as I have, I can't imagine you not being passionate everywhere you go to talk about it. And I think that's natural for you. And as we've talked about tonight, we just want to make sure that everyone understands what you can do as board members, what the district can do, and you're just going to go be passionate and explain why we need this middle school, and I think that's gonna be great.
I'd like to kind of piggyback on what you just said, Dorothy. Because it's a fact, North Little Rock is not receiving desegregation money any longer, and we haven't for years. Where you were just talking about how Maumell's got those new schools, Sherwood's got new schools, and they're still getting desegregation money. Where again, the fact is we're not. So is that something that we can, I mean, it's a fact, but
I
can
don't
we
think that that's a true statement. They're under a deseg order
Yes,
that is
okay,
different than everyone's settled
okay.
on receiving funding, and I don't believe the state pays out deseg, but I could be wrong, because Pulaski County is not my client.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you're wrong.
It happens sometimes.
But stand by, we gonna fact check.
Okay.
Because I could be wrong, and I will tell you I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
But even when we were getting the desegregation money, even during 2012, we still were not able to do what we needed to do for the middle school campus. So therefore, we just took $8 million of saving and patched the school up. That's what happened. They said that we were gonna fix it up so it could look good, but it didn't turn out that way, because after us being able to see the results of this building, we had some poor workers coming in there and doing things.
I think it will be natural that we'll get some questions at the informational meeting about the last campaign, and it's important for us to be able to articulate the things we did well, all the elementaries that were constructed and remodeled, the high school, and why the middle school wasn't touched, why Old Main wasn't renovated, and why we're trying to address it today. But being able to tell that story, I think, is something we'll work on this summer and make sure everybody is comfortable talking about the history and explaining the future.
I notice on this brochure that this is all numbers here, but it doesn't mention what the millage is for. Is that not included here?
This has happened.
Well, it says it in one little section down here.
So on the
So
left,
that-
on the
that's-
left panel.
Right, down at the very
And
bottom.
this is just a start, just so we could talk about it tonight.
Okay.
Depending on your high school students, a lot of them, may want to dress this up. Your communication department may want to dress it up. Pictures can be added. We can talk about different schools to compare you to. This is sort of step one of a draft to give you a feel for tonight. What are factual things you can say? And if you think that taxpayers would better connect in that question with maybe a picture of each of the items or a more detailed explanation, then, hopefully over the next 60 days, we'll kind of work through that. One of the things we talked about when you're crafting the ballot language is we have to do everything that we tell the taxpayers that we're going to do. And so to the extent that you go into a ton of detail, you're making a commitment to do everything that's on there. To the extent that we stay with the building name and talk about that these are draft pictures from the architect, then we're giving the board more freedom and flexibility as you get into the design to move things around. That's just always something we want to be cautious and aware of.
But we want to try and stay to just this one page trifold.
No, this is my start. Some schools end up making a flyer and do multiple pages. Some like trifold. There's lots of space on the back of this that is filler that you can add things. So it was just something for us to talk about tonight if you wanted to see the difference between something that's just informational versus something maybe the Vote Yes committee would put out.
So, what you're saying, I know the thing now, this is why. And then we show all of the ceilings falling down and all of that. You know that tape you got, Mr. Brown? This is why. And visual speaks better than verbal. This is why.
Picture's worth 1,000 words, they say.
Hey, I'm excited.
Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. We also spoke briefly regarding last campaign. We had the little asterisk by Old Main, and then coming back to why we're asking this. And we have decided that the first priority was the middle school, and then the second priority was Old Main. So, yes, it needs to be included in that, but how do I say this delicately? No asterisk?
So I think we heard that very clearly from the
Yeah.
board.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of working back through what we were going to present, how much millage, and Brian, correct me here, but, you know, there is no asterisk. And so the campaign, if approved, you know, is to renovate Old Main. It will not be to the standard that the state partnership would require if the state does not partner with you.
So that's where the asterisk
Now, we're,
maybe comes in?
well, the asterisk
No.
is that the state wants to replace
No.
all of the systems, you know.
No
to-
asterisk, no
Oh,
asterisk,
that's-
no,
that's-
no asterisk.
That's where I'm
No.
at.
But would that be necessary for you to use the building?
No.
No. Is that the district's desire to do it? No. But in order to receive state money, they get to set the standard of the scale of the renovation. And so if the state in May of 2025 grants you partnership, then we'll have to comply with their rules, and you have enough money for your part with their part to comply with the rules. If they don't give you funding in May of 2025, the district still plans to renovate Old Main, and the bond contains enough money to renovate it to the standard that you want to use the building.
So that means no asterisk,
That is our intention, is to have no asterisk.
Right.
That work will be done on Old Main.
yes.
So we'll cover in just a moment, the budget workshop for tonight is our capital improvement budget. But we'll cover that in the capital improvement budget, with a successful millage. We have a $30 million line for the renovation of Old Main. So no asterisk for $30 million worth of renovations.
Right.
That in its, so no asterisk. Old Main, if
It's
when a
30 million.
successful millage is completed,
Right.
they will get Old Main will get a $30 million renovation. It may get more if we qualify for
Right.
the additional partnership funds from the state.
Right.
So the district commitment is $30 million.
I like it.
Anything else at this time?
Yeah, the unitary status versus non-unitary. That's what I'm looking at. I'm still on that.
Thank
Still
you
going down
for
that
the
rabbit hole
report.
That's all right.
as I participate.
We'll
Multitasking.
remember this, the sheets, what to say, the do's and do nots. Okay. And thank you.
Actually, I feel like that we have more leeway than I was anticipating. So that makes me happy.
For vocalizing for it, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, just want to make sure I was understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank
That's
you
good. Yes,
for,
thank you.
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
thank you for the overview. And board members, as you know, if you've got very specific questions, just please feel free to reach out to Mr. Keys.
Cody,
He'll
before
know
you leave, so talking about the committee, if I recommend someone who is elected within the city, town, county, does that matter? Or should I stay away from someone of that statute?
I mean, the committee, I think anybody could join those committees.
Okay.
And I don't even know how, I don't think that the names of the members are like even publicly disclosed. It's who, like the dispersing officer is. It's whoever has to sign that form. And I'm not familiar enough with it, but I don't, you know, it's not like a committee where you have to join officially. I think anybody that wants to participate. But the only issue would be like if they're a county or city employee.
Right.
Making sure that they attend those meetings during their, you know,
Off time.
Off time.
Right.
which y'all don't have as much.
Right.
So,
Right.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. The next information item is an overview of the licensed employee stipends, and I'll welcome Mr. Smith, our Executive Director of Human Resources, Mr. Brown, and Ms. Stumpenhouse, who's President of the LPPC and who has done a plethora of work. And this is a high-level overview. I know that you've probably looked at this, and there's a lot of information here, and it's a lot to digest in one night, so we can take this in small chunks, but I will turn it over to my colleagues to get us started. Mr. Smith.
Good evening. It's nice to see everyone. Just wanted to say the purpose of this presentation is to share with the board and the community the work being done by the stipend subcommittee on the athletic and the non-athletic stipend schedule. We have taken our role to create and amend our current policies to ensure that our concerns are considered in the decision-making process. We know that there are a lot of phases that are happening within the district, and we want this just to be part of your thinking as you're going through the financial decisions in the district. The reason why we've been looking at stipends, current stipends have not been adjusted in many decades. Our amounts are antiquated, as well as some of the things that have not been adjusted in terms of new things to consider stipends for, and some things that may need to be eliminated from the process. So we want staff to feel valued for the work that they do. We want our staff salaries to be competitive with other districts, and that they can be rewarded by, knowing that they are being valued for that. So we do have a huge tradition of excellence in our schools, extracurricular programs, and we would like to continue to build upon that legacy here, and acknowledging that finances is a way to do that. So I think you guys have a copy of the numbers in front of you. I'd like to start, if you don't mind, with the non-athletics.
Numbers.
Hit the non-athletic stipends.
There should be a.
Hit that little, it's a hyperlink.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. So this is not a perfect document. So if you are looking at this and you are one of these folks that have a position and you see an error, please know that this is a working document. And this is something that would need to be finalized with our department of, our financial department and the staff that are there. We have done the best we can do. We have sent out emails asking people for their input all year long. And so if you see errors, please, the staff that may be watching this tonight, notify me of the errors that you see, and we will be working on this as we move forward. But I do want to say that with the non-athletic stipends, the first sheet that you're looking at is our current stipends of folks that hold these positions. The items that are in blue are items that are currently held. The items that are in yellow are things that had some anomalies to them, whether I couldn't find the title of the person or the person had a different title, and we couldn't match up that exact title with someone's salary. So I just put some notes down at the bottom to explain some of that. For instance, we have a middle school head band director stipend amount of $37.50, but we don't give that stipend to either one of our middle school band directors. We have two middle school band directors who both receive $30.50, and neither one of them receives this $37.50. And so I verified this by looking at their individual contracts. So that's, I just wanted to see where I started to see some anomalies and just have some questions. There may be very good reasoning behind that. I don't know what the history is of that position and why no one was given the head title of middle school head band director. We do have multiple empty stipend positions currently, and you can see over to the side that includes everything from a Perkins coordinator, which I don't know if that has been an older title that someone now has a different title and encompasses that, or we just don't do that anymore. I know we don't do the IB coordinator any longer, and so those totals are, about $22,000, things that are listed in our current policies, but we don't actually have anybody in that role. So the current total cost, and this does not include, all the different benefits that go along with the additional cost, but it's about right at $90,000 for non-athletic positions in the district. So if you look at the next tab, which is the LPPC recommendations for this, what I've done on this tab is this is a summary tab. And this summary explains what all the other tabs in the document are about. So for instance, if you looked at the robotics tab, which is next, robotics, what we did was we looked up all these different school districts that are in our conference, the same size as us, and we looked to see if they also had a robotics position. And so if they did, we put in whether or not they got extra contract days for those, whether it was a flat stipend, whether it was an index stipend. And so if you'll notice, for instance, our robotics person gets a flat stipend of $700, but also has an additional contract days. So one thing that I don't know about this particular person is, do his contract days come from another stipend that he gets because he's a CTE teacher, or are they related to the robotics stipend? So those are some of the questions that I would ask. I anticipate that his 5 extra days come from CTE. So my guess is that the original stipend would just be $700. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Conway has a it's an index. The index is really the same as a flat stipend, except the only thing that's different is as salaries change, as the salary schedule changes, it grows. So you don't have to go back and fix it like we're trying to do now. So that would, the difference between theirs and ours would be from $700 to $2,875. But I didn't know the answer to the 5 additional days, so I went ahead and counted that amount. Flat stipend for Bryant was $1,150, Cabot $2,250, Jonesboro $2,500, Fayetteville does some different kinds of things, and so they do ranges of stipends. So we don't try to always compare Fayetteville because they have minimum stipends and maximum stipends, and they have a range of offerings that they give to people. And some of these positions are also paid in hourly rates as well, and so it's not always a good comparison to make. LRSD does something similar, but in this case, they did give a flat stipend of $26.35. So what I did was took the average pay of the schools and then compared them to ours. So if indeed the 5 extra days comes from the robotics, then the only additional thing that we would do would just be like a $500 raise there. If it does not come from robotics, then you're talking about the difference between an average of $2,565 and $700. So that would need to be a difference of $1,800 for that one position. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I tried to do this for all the other positions, and so if you look through the entire workbook, these were different things that came up throughout the year. For instance, topped-out teachers. We had some questions about topped-out teachers. So we did some research. We realized that there was only one district, Cabot, that was doing topped-out teachers, and that was $500. And because there was nobody else doing that, we just said, leave it as is, no recommendations. We don't include that. So there were several of these types of things that we recommended to leave alone because they were okay as is. If you guys want, I don't know if you want to look through every one of them right now, or if you just kind of understand the process that we went through, and just like, for instance, middle school yearbook. I'll look at that one. North Little Rock doesn't pay anything for middle school yearbook, but I think every other district besides one of them does pay. So we recommended a $1,000 stipend for the middle school yearbook. My understanding is that's quite a task that person does every year, and so I would think that we would do that. Now, to figure out the index, what I did was I said, okay, here's the average, it's $1,000. So rather than calling it a $1,000 stipend, let's figure out what that looks like in an index. So you take $1,000, divide it by $50,000, which is the base salary, and you get 0.02. That's how you come up with this magical number of 0.02. So if the base were to raise to $55,000, now we say 55,000 times 0.02, and that becomes the new stipend for that position. Do you have anything to add there?
Just saying, do you guys want to pause here for a second and ask questions? I mean, I know we need to get to the sports side, but this is what we have discussed is a great example of the work that has been put in and how this has been looked at. And
This
so
is
we
really
do need
good
to get to
data
the,
written down.
if you guys want to go to the summary piece on the sports side, we can do that, but I also don't want to move forward if you guys have any questions about kind of the format, process, and look.
I looked at one that, I guess it was the TV, and it looked like that one was high. So what did you do when you saw one that was high?
High school TV. Okay, so I think there was one district that was especially high in this one.
Yeah,
Cabot.
Cabot.
So one of the things that we talked about was when you have an outlier like that, we really would need to do some more research as to why there's such an outlier there. And so we left it out of the comparison, to be honest with you, because we wanted to make sure that all the others were kind of similar. And so we would just, and I could, I'm happy to discuss with whoever our TV person is to see if the comparisons of jobs are the same. So I know that Cabot has a production for everything. Even their graduation is a production piece. So, I don't know. So we just left that out.
I love your notes. Go back to your notes. Are these things you recommended?
Mm-hmm.
That means good, really good stuff.
That's very good. But since we have this, it's so very interesting. I would like to see this in a workshop. So give some really good clarity, some, to really get into it where you see one person here, one for boys and one for girls, but when one person's doing it, they're only getting $1,800. And shouldn't she be getting two salaries if she's doing both jobs?
That's right.
And these are things that I'm talking about. It's really, really good information, but that would give us an opportunity as board members to take a closer look at things what we need to be aware of. Because this is really overwhelming.
Yes, I
to
understand.
see the number of
And
stipends.
I don't want anybody not to double check my numbers. It's we make mistakes. So
This
please,
is incredible what you've put together.
It's incredible what you've done here, and it's not about you taking, because my point in stipends has always been, it doesn't matter who's getting it as long as they're qualified to getting it, and we're not just putting money out there. You understand?
Right.
I want anybody in that position, but oh my goodness, all the money.
But I would like to say, I'd like to say a piece about our choir teacher, and she contacted me directly and wanted me to bring up her position. If you go over to choir, it's closer to the end of the document. Our choir director is really phenomenal. She makes $900 as a stipend. If you will look at how she compares to Conway, Bryant, Cabot, Jonesboro, she is extremely underpaid.
That was the big one.
And
we looked at
that's one of the
Jonesboro,
biggest
it's like
discrepancies that we have. And so I know that she feels very unappreciated and undervalued. And so I just there are some positions that we have that are fairly okay. But there are others that we really need to act on, And I don't want to say that one is more important than another. I want you to see that some are really striking in the differences.
And then too, wouldn't it be, to me, I think aboard, if the higher our enrollment is, the more finances we can have to support some of these stipends that you're talking about.
Right.
But right now, look like we're in a crossroad. You lose students, you pick them up, but we can't get that money until in the spring of the year. and this is what holds us back. Is that not correct, Mr. Brown? That the daily average attendance, you know, that doesn't kick in until when?
Well, we're funded on average daily membership.
Right.
Yes. So and they average that over 3 quarters of the year. So it's called a 3-quarter ADM. That's how we're funded with foundation funding.
Because what I'm saying, the money that we're trying to pay, if the students are not here, we cannot generate. We keep comparing school districts too, and then too, you think about the tax base that North Little Rock have. We don't have one. You got Union Pacific running right through the middle of North Little Rock, and the county gets the money. So if you could name me one large company that we can really get monies from, but we're doing the best we can with what we have. Because basically, Dr. P, you've been here now for 3 years. What is the largest tax base we have here since you've been here?
The largest tax base?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning
The mall don't belong to us.
Oh.
Mr. Brown, could you tell the board?
Who's bringing in the most revenue in North Little Rock? Is that the question? So it's not the mall, it's not the railroad.
The residents.
The residents, would it?
Would be residents?
It's the residents.
There's some commercial buildings, but
See,
There's-
all I'm
The
saying
residents.
is,
It's the residents.
we have got to generate, by building a new school, to generate some students in here so we can have a base. That's the biggest problem if our money comes in, with the students that we have.
Sure.
Because we just don't have the J.B. Hunts. We don't have that.
Well, and Ms. Williams, part of the reason, and I'm so grateful to Ms. Stumpenhouse and the stipend committee and everybody that have done the work. I mean, this has been a big chew since I've been in this position. And so doing all the other things that we've been trying to get to, this has always been on the back burner, but she really took a large chunk of this onto herself and did it. The reason North Little Rock is in the situation they're in is because we had a standard flat rate stipend. If you look statewide, the indices, the index that she was talking about, the reason no one else has become stagnant in that area is because they had an indices-based stipend model that grew with their salary schedule. So whenever you have that little weird number that Ms. Temple always asks about, that 0.0216, how did you come up with that? What she just described is whenever somebody originally set that 10, 15 years ago, whenever the salary schedule was beginning salary of $32,000, that's where that number came up, that stipend came up with, based on that indices. And then as we've grown through LEARNs and everything else, those indexes have grown with the base salary. And so they didn't remain stagnant like they are with ours, where it's just been this flat rate.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I'm
Ms.
just gonna say,
Temple.
we got
Mike.
kind of a hybrid because some of it is days. So
It
that
is.
would grow when wages go up, and then some of it is stipend. So we got both.
It
Right.
The
is.
flat
And
then
that
the
is something
hybrid.
that we've actually talked about is,
We're looking at.
maybe eliminating the days as part of the contract. And just like, it's not that people wouldn't have extra days.
Correct.
But they're not necessarily paid for the days.
They would be paid for the extra days of work in the indices, in the index. So maybe you have a $22,000 index, but what it used to be was a $10,500 index from
Plus.
flat, plus another $10,500 from days.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so everybody gets a 190 teacher contract, but you're the head football coach. Well, you're expected to work 245 days. You're going to get a 190-day contract where you fall on that salary schedule. Then you're going to get an index for the football coach.
But see, Mr. Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
the way they started doing that, in the old day, it wasn't old, just something been happening the last few years. When you wanted a coach to have more money, you give him extra days. There was a time coaches did the regular time, did 10 months and rather 245 days. So they say, I know what we can do. so they can get some more money, because we're not going to give them no stipends. We give them more days, 245. And you don't see any coaches doing no 245 days, but it's there.
There's
Because they got to have vacation, but nobody works that
We
much.
do have some coaches that show up for their days.
Some.
Some.
Say the magic word again.
There are
Some,
very few,
and not
but
all.
some
So
do.
that's why it has happened. You know, it's not that we didn't want them to have it, but since they didn't have the money to pay the stipends, what did they do? We give them more days. And that's what happened.
Right, and we know where we've been, but we're just trying to talk about
Correct.
where we're going.
and we
And you are sharp, and we appreciate, and I really appreciate what you say you're trying to do, because it is phenomenal. It's never been done from this standpoint. And I appreciate you, even though your husband is a coach.
And he helped me actually do most of this research, so I would like to give him credit for
Shout
that.
out
Well,
to Coach.
Shout out.
Shout out to Coach.
And
Coach
I would say, if you were to go to that, where you did 190 days and the rest is paid in stipend, that we need a policy that says
Of
that
course.
that is the
And-
only way you get paid for those services.
And-
We can't come in and up days.
And so that's what and you know, Coach Ballon is on now. We have the vision with the athletic department and things like that. One thing that's been discussed is like we have our head coaches on a 240-day contract. Well, some of that is during a dead week time, you know, a 2-week dead week time that's required by AAA.
Right.
Well, like what Cabot does is the head football coach comes in and he sits down and he says, well, these are my 190 teaching days. I have a 240-day contract that's based on my indices. Let's get on this calendar right here and define my other work days. And so the work days fit. So if you're working over Thanksgiving break because you've made the playoffs, or you're working over Christmas break because you're in the state finals or whatever, then those days count for the days in which you're serving. Same thing with basketball. Basketball is pretty much every Christmas break is on a tournament. And so those
And don't forget
coaches,
Thanksgiving.
and so all of those things
Yeah.
individuals have thought about in a different way, but the largest issue with North Little Rock is we don't have a stipend schedule that corrects itself. We are going to have to do a reset, and we are going to have to start over. And once we start over, the board, us, Dr. Paluski, the community, our staff members, our kids, they'll never be in the same position because that policy will correct itself as it goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It makes
Yes.
sense,
And
and
then-
I'm so moved that we have a workshop on this because of the time. If we have, I have a zillion questions here.
Well, I
because
thought
I'm
tonight was the
enjoying it.
workshop.
I'm enjoying
I
it.
have a quick question though.
Okay.
If we go to the index, and you say every year, you know, it would increase, you know, each year automatically. If that person leaves, do we have a base that the new person comes in on, or do they come in on where the other person left off?
No, this is all based, the salary schedule is based off of the initial year one
Gotcha.
contract.
Year one, box one, and $50,000
Year one,
that
box
we're
one.
at right now.
Yep.
That's what the index is based off of.
Gotcha.
So, it sounds like the will of the board, you've, and again, Ms. Stumpenhouse,
I have more.
and Coach, and your husband. Well, there, and there's the other side, which is the athletic side, and she's done a phenomenal job, and Coach has as well. We can keep going, or if you want to have her do a highlight of what's on the athletic side, just to
I can
let
do
you
a- I
know,
can do a quick highlight.
just to know what's there.
Sure.
And then it sounds like you guys can chew on that, and then we'll just have a workshop that's dedicated to this. Because I think we all agree, there's a lot of information here, but we need to be in the information and dedicate the time to do it.
Right.
I like that.
So just the LPPC recommendations for the non-athletics, on the second tab of this non-athletic one. What I did was I took all the information from the other tabs and I compiled it into one worksheet so that you could see what we currently have and how much these additional things would cost. So when you add all those things together, the total cost to the district would be right at $65,000 in changes. So that's just the non-athletic. Now let me swing over to the athletic side. And so what we have done is worked with Coach Ballon, and we have looked at the type of positions that we currently have and the type of positions that he hopes to have that will get us fully, staffed for athletics. And so these numbers are based on, this is the one comparison to Bryant that we did, because athletics is a different type of beast. They have, at Bryant, they have indexes. They have an off-season index. So if a coach only coaches one sport and not two sports, they get an additional off-season index for their current sport, and they get days. And so when you take all those things and add them up, for instance, the head football coach at Bryant makes $28,607, right? First year coach.
What are we looking for? Which one?
That's the first one, head football.
Head football, okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't hear out.
Whereas the current, if you were a first year football coach, your stipend would be at North Little Rock $23,657 for a difference of almost $5,000, right?
Okay.
So we have, if you'll notice all the things in red, those are the positions that that's the amount of money per position that we currently are behind in. So for instance, we don't have an offensive coordinator. So Bryant pays their coordinator $17,000. We don't have that position at all, so that would cost us that same amount of money. The ones that are in green are the only positions that we have that our positions are higher than Bryant's. And that would be our head boys and girls basketball, as well as our head volleyball, head girls volleyball. And everything else is in red. So if you look at the bottom of the sheet,
Wrestling, 2008, 2000.
the total cost to the district is close to $500,000.
Okay, let me pause you there. Dr. P, how much are we saving on that MCL stipend?
It's $230,000, but that's in a different bucket of money.
I understand.
This is operational
Yep,
money, and that money was out of Title I.
okay. Just wanted to reiterate my thoughts here.
Sure. So lots to think about, lots of things to look at, but just kind of wanted to give some numbers to you going forward and
It's excellent.
And
to
for
start that discussion.
And we only did this versus Bryant for current athletics.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, because Conway's not on here, Jonesboro.
Right. If you look at the positions in yellow,
Uh-huh.
those are positions that Coach Ballon would like us to have, but we currently don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just additional
Yellow
things.
is his wish list.
Yellow is the wish list.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And all of those things that are on his wish list are actual stipends or with an index in Bryant.
Not all of them. There's a few that they don't have. Not very many, but a couple. I have to go back and dig here for a second.
There's no ninth off-season.
No seventh,
That's
eighth
to say.
off-season either.
And no seventh or eighth off-season. No high school off-season.
Base increased following employees across the district. So
I think those off-season positions are the only one, aren't they? Only one.
They don't
That's
have,
what's up right now.
Yeah, that's
Done
true.
this one?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
No, I think you got them.
and I know the board is, I know we need a workshop on this, and Ms.
Totally.
Williams and everybody else, we need to dive deeper into it. I believe that where we have ended up in these conversations, both with finance and myself and Coach Ballon, is we know that it will be very unreasonable probably for us to be able to do this all at once.
Sure.
And so what we're discussing is a phase-in model. And for the board's clarity, as we come up with money that's available for raises and things like that, like let's say we have 4 phases, let's say the cost is $500,000, that means that $125,000 of the raises devoted to the licensed staff raises would be devoted to phase one of the implementation of this. That's just our thought process, if that makes sense. But I don't want the board to see the number. I don't want the superintendent to see the number and just think that that's a all at once. And these are not even finalized numbers. But our main reason for coming here is to start this conversation that's needed to happen for a long time and show you guys how we are going about it. And if there is concerns, questions, whatever, please email me, email Brian, email Ms. Stumpenhouse, email Dr. Paluski, and he'll get it to us. But we are more than open. This has been a very open forum in regards to the way we have communicated to our staff and the way we have collected this information. And so, with the
It's a proven point, Mr. Smith. All I'm asking as a board member, I would like to see a workshop.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we cannot hear all of this in 30 minutes.
Right.
You're right.
And we need that. And I am recommending, as a board member, for you to set up a time for us.
I
for
got
this.
you. Yes, ma'am. I will get with Dr.
So that we can
Paluski.
get, because to me, this is wonderful.
It is.
It is really wonderful. And also in the process, you can ask Mr. Brown to meet with you on that, because we can look at the monies and what we're trying to do. And if we can't see any monies there are certain things we cannot do.
I agree.
And preferably, it can be on a Saturday morning, half day,
I was
rather
just
than
gonna
take a
suggest
day
that.
from anybody.
I'm ready. Yes, ma'am.
Because I am tired of getting information and it's not disseminated. You know, look like we're hearing it and it's just going out the door. But I want something that will impact us. And we're trying to rush and get everything. That's not helping me as a board member.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
need time.
Well, we didn't have any specific recommendations tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight was
There's
not
no
to try
rush.
to push something onto
Absolutely
you guys
not.
for
No,
y'all to have to make a
that's-
decision.
It's not you, darling.
Okay.
You
It's
did a
me.
great job. I
You
said
did a
you
wonderful
And,
job.
and it's not us either. I mean,
You did a
obviously,
wonderful job.
you know, again, just to get the information, and we certainly hear you, Ms. Williams, and we're going to accommodate that to take a deep dive into this in a more, if that's the will of the board to do a half Saturday just to do this, we'll be happy to accommodate that. And I really just appreciate the collaboration between
Yeah.
LPPC and our staff, that this has been a much, much, much needed data for us to tackle.
Yes,
Yeah.
it has.
And
Very
I,
good.
even with, just speaking to the stipend component of it, I know a lot of times educators do a lot from their hearts. So I hate to hear that, with our choral department, that our choir director feels unappreciated, because I know, I was in choir growing up in school, so and I know what it means to go to all regional and all that kind of stuff and to state, and it's a lot of work. And I know that, even my nephew currently is in the choir department at another school district, so, and it's a lot of work, and he practices and have to go out of town and stuff. So I don't want anyone to feel like they're undervalued or underappreciated, and this is definitely eye-opening. I agree with Ms. Williams. I would like to take some further deep dives into all of this, but
I'm happy
this
to come and help.
this
explain
is
to you
very
where all that has come
eye-opening,
from.
and I'm glad, but it's very eye-opening to see a lot of the discrepancies that are right here in our face locally. So I definitely agree with Ms. Williams on
I
that.
do
But-
think, it's worth that
Oh,
note
yeah.
too. There's several other stories in here of people that are very underpaid, so it's.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
I
just
mean, I can
one
look
in
at the
particular that I
numbers
wanted
and
to share.
see that, and I know for a fact I've seen, one of my mentees was under Dr. Reynolds, and I know she does a whole lot as it relates to the swim team. I mean, that's just eye-opening to see, the big discrepancy there, so.
Yes, ma'am.
I have just a quick question on the non-athletic stipend page. What was the difference in the yellow and the blue?
Let me go back and look.
Yellow and blue.
On which page? The first one, the current?
Yes, the
The
current.
blue was the positions that I could find that were people had that stipend on their contract. The yellow, I couldn't, I didn't see that particular name on anybody's
We might
contract.
have had the stipend, but there's not that
But it was
stipend
called
attached to
something
it.
else.
So have we had any people that have said, hey, we need to add this or additional positions on this, non-athletic stipends?
There have been,
We have had some discussions,
Yes.
and I sent out an email to everybody that had a stipend and asked them for their input. Some of them got back to me and some didn't, and so, there has been an opportunity to give.
it's also looped in all the principals. We've communicated what else do you have that is not listed on the stipend schedule. So I mean, it's been very collaborative, and we've been
Okay.
trying to be very transparent through the whole process.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to jump in here and say that for 7 years, I've been on this board asking for us to do something with these stipends, so y'all are like Superman and Superwoman, just, it's, yeah. I know you spent a lot of time on this.
Just wonderful. That's the only thing I was saying, ma'am. Since this is what the LPPC should be about, concerns, and that haven't heard that concern since Anita Bell was one of the chairpersons. She retired 7 years ago. Last time, but I'm appreciative of you all.
Absolutely.
I love it. Would you please have a meeting so we can discuss it in depth?
I'm happy to do it.
You just push in.
You just.
I'm gonna bring donuts. I'm ready.
From
Eggs
March.
and
Wait till
bacon.
after July 5th. I'm trying to save public education right now.
Hey, I've been meaning, I want some information on that. I've been meaning to email you that. I think of you at 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm not gonna email her now or text her
So
now.
are we seriously looking at a Saturday in June?
I
Is
would
that what we're
prefer
talking about
Saturday,
here?
only because we can digest it. We can also invite teachers. I don't know how willing they're, I mean,
Help us.
they need a vacay day.
I can't do June, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fair.
That's fine, whatever you do.
I can do daytime or during the week.
We can do a day workshop during the,
Our school is out.
School
Yes,
is
Yes, ma'am.
we can do
But
one.
There you
day.
everybody-
go. There you go.
But we can
There's
do.
only 2 of us that work, okay?
Right.
So I just need
So
a
it's
notice.
any time. Okay, I've kept
Everybody
thinking
else
the
is
school was
retired.
still in session. Okay, do that, whatever you and
Yeah.
Mr.
Sorry, Mother.
We can do
Smith
So,
come up
Miss-
with.
weekdays are better.
So you can do a weekday in June.
Yes.
Okay. Well, great. Let's come up with one and.
All right,
Should we
I
ask Mr.
appreciate
Noble
that.
if
Thank
he
you
can
so
attend?
much.
Okay. Is that, thank you, Ms. Stumpenhouse. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Brown. And then we will conclude with 1.3. This will be very quick, but this is, as
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Brown, this is just a refresher since we talked
you, sir.
about the millage to just revisit the budget as it relates to our building construction priorities.
Thank you, Sarah.
So I thought I would dedicate my budget time tonight, since we were doing our millage training, our millage training, to the capital improvement project budget that we had developed, and just bring that back to the forefront. This could be one of our artifacts, one of the facts that we could incorporate in our public information that we are able to send home. But if you'll remember, just as if you look at the green section at the top, that's our revenue section. That peach-colored section in the middle is our expenditures. And then, of course, at the bottom, the cost difference is just the difference between the revenue. But I wanted to talk to you about if you'll notice the designations beside that first line, that's 34.9 million. You see the designation R1. It's small. If you flip that sheet over, R1 has a description about what that total means. So, it's related to the building fund balance. It's Fund 3000, and it gives information about that. And if you'll look at, let's just say R2 and R3, it says projected savings from the 2001 bond refinance. Well, if you flip over R2 and R3, I have information there. The general public, you as board members, may not know what that means, bond refinance. What does that mean? But we've got information on the back that said we worked with Mr. Beardsley to refinance existing bonded debt that was financed at higher rates. We reduced that rates. I even put in there the district secured interest rates on 2 bonds of 1.93 and 1.75%. So that's how we generated those savings. The general public may have questions about that. So I've put information there that would apply to the ones on the back. And then R4, that next line in revenue, that's the state partnership funding. So I put information in there. On July the 20th, 2023, the district was awarded $20.8 million in state partnership. So I give information on each of those lines. But again, the area of R7, that's what we're interested in with the millage election. That's the estimated $70 million in revenue. So on the back, R7, that talks about our priorities, what the goals are, our district priority goals, and how the $70 million, how they would be used and what they're for. So I just wanted to get this back in front of you. We've seen it before. And then there's also those same designations, E1, 2, 3, 4. Those are on the back related to the expenditures. I give a little detail about that. And then, of course, I listed the district priorities at the bottom. So
I like how you did this.
Oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah, I like that.
Wonderful.
So
It is
this
wonderful.
is a nice little fact sheet that we can share?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
I like that.
See,
Yes,
this is
no
stuff-
emotions in that.
That's
just
clear
strict,
and concise.
strict facts. Yes.
Facts.
Yeah, you didn't say it enough to have it memorized, Mr. Brown.
This has been a wonderful night because the presentation we just had and this one, I mean, you can't get any better. Thank you.
And
This
we'd
is
certainly
great.
like to meet with you when we meet with them. Stipends,
Yes.
that could give us a better
Yes.
understanding of what we can do, of what we should be, what we
Yes.
should be
Yeah,
doing.
we will need
Yes.
your input.
Yes.
You
And
know, it can be
I've
one half day.
And I've spoken with Ms. Stumpenhouse and Mr. Smith, and they're correct. We have talked about a phase-in approach. $500,000 can be a bit overwhelming on an operation budget all at once. But if we can phase that in and look for savings along the way of that phase-in, it may be a 2-year phase-in, 3-year phase-in, 4-year phase-in. We will have to look at what that bottom line number is and what we think we can work into the budget and absorb over time. So, yes, I'm willing to be a part of that discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Is that doing it?
I think that adjourns
Madam
us.
Chair, I so moved that we adjourn.
Second.
Amen.
Say
Thank you
that.
much.